Uh, Hello, Reza. Reza just asked me what's my number in this project. 100 people, 100 days, and I tell him, I tell you, you are number 100 or 99. Let's say 99 or 100, like you wish.
So I'm considering lucky, or I don't know, but very happy to be here for sure.
We are in the Hugenottenhaus. Welcome all people inside this room. There are very much people here now, and in the digital cyberspace also you are welcome. And we are in the Hugenottenhaus in the exhibition. In the frame of the exhibition First Aid, Erste Hilfe First Aid, we have this project, 100 people, 100 days. In German it's 100 Menschen, 100 Tage. And I see just I'm part of the team of a collective. And it's Stefan Haberzettel, it's Jasmin Moalem, Stefan von Borstel, Pascal Heusner, Maurice Malten, und Silvia Freier. We are a little team to plan this. It touches us very, very, very much in this 100 days. And today, it's Reza. We are speaking about Reza, and we are speaking about Documenta, we are speaking artist life or human beings life, and so on. And my first question will be, 5 years ago you get this announcement to be curatorial team of Documenta 15. How you reach this message, you in which house, in which situation?
Okay, first of all, we would like to greet everyone's here, also the ones that already following this 100 days, 100 peoples, that's very important. And then since last couple of weeks, actually, we've been having conversations with you to regard like when that I should also be contributing to this program, which is I really appreciate lots. And then I could have a chance to sit here together. So actually, like our to regard these particular invitations, the first time that we got to submit the proposal, actually back in the second semester of 2018. Actually, during that particular period, we don't yet being or submitting anything to Documenta, because we also still concerned to regard our ecosystem, that since like during that time it was like since 17 years actually we don't have a place to that solid space for us to occupy with. So we mostly every time we have to move to find a space to rent or something like that. And then 2017 actually we got the grant, and then we continuing that we could buy our own space, so we don't need to think toward the renting situation. And we govern this together with other collective, not only ruangrupa in the sense. So it's becoming ecosystem. So actually in this particular moment is really critical, and as well as very important, because for us collectives mean way of living, because this is part of our daily situations on how we, aside of practicing but also working. So like this is like the sense of us being collective in ruangrupa. So 2019 actually this is the particular particular conditions when we already submitted, and then we're facing different steps for sure to regard this interview or coming to Kassel. Actually, I'm not the one who first coming to Kassel during that period because I don't have visa. So it's only like 3 of us from out of 9 of us that working conditionally for Documenta. But
excuse me, was Farid Raccoon the first one who was in Kassel?
Yes, during that time it was Farid, Ade, and Sari. Because as you know, us as Indonesia, we need to have a visa to come to Europe mostly, and during that period, actually, it's quite sudden when we get invited to present our proposal, let's say. So with among us in ruangrupa during that time, it's not only 9 of us, but like together with the rest of the ecosystem, we decided who could come. And then the one who have a visa during that period is only 3%, so they come here first. But actually, like our relationship to Germany and as well to regard our artistic practices, it's been connected to different cities, but quite unfortunate up until that time we haven't been to Kassel, or even none of us. Perhaps only Farid experiencing Documenta's 13 or 12, I forgot. But none of us visited Documenta, or none of us even know what is Documenta as an big art event at this particular scale. So that's the period when we start to develop up until we get announced and selected, for sure, selected and announced. That's the key point on how we need to decide together as a collective whom we should proceed within our process back in Jakarta, and to accompany in parallel to regard our process to for Documenta's 15.
Very complex situation as you describe it, and it's I think it's 3 years ago that you visited the Hugenottenhaus, and we walked around through the Hugenottenhaus, this old house, this art culture house, and also we interviewed Farid Raccoon, and I know I asked him, I see this in a little film on YouTube, ask him, you said it's more important to make friends than art. Can you say something about this koan, about this sentence?
In particular, actually, because our practice within ourselves individually in the context on how we generate these particular relationships even before when we start to initiate a collective called ruangrupa, because our relationships, it's been since our college time back in the 90s. So within this strong gesture of relationships, compare to regard what is to collaborate, so we mostly use the term of relationships, because for us that's much more even stronger, and even without any term and conditions as a friends. So that's why it is kind of like generating into sense like within our practice back in Jakarta is a quite dense inhabitants for sure, and then also is quite complex within this our diversities, and we are stranded mostly in Java Island. So we thought like by making friends is much more clear for us steps also to acknowledge different kind of matters, and in the realistic way of approach. Although we know that we have consideration that our life having a close approach to regard our artistic practices, but the most important thing to regard our societies back in Jakarta, actually creating friends is much more challenge rather than creating art. So that's why we thought like within this saying, actually, like since the beginning, like our focus, actually this is not like a solid term. Like we use it because we know within us conditions back in Jakarta's context. So to make friends, not art, it seems like not really concerning about the art itself, but actually it's actually the way around, because we know the importance is when we could create such a friendship, for sure the relations toward artistic practice is always there.
For us it's very astonishing that you say this sentence, make friends not art, or being friendship or friends is, and I very often heard that you said we are not networking, it's a relationship, we are interested in relationship. But in our culture, it's other topics or issues are important. I see a work in Documentahalle from African artists with many knives, and there was one sentence this man's artist spoke. He said, "Don't make the knives too sharp. It could hurt you, hurt the owner." And in our culture, we have very sharp knives. It's very important for we not only hurt others, we hurt ourselves and so on. The world climate change, we hurt everybody. And for us, it's very important to have sharp knives. We read this in the newspapers. It's written with very sharp, let's say, knives in metaphoric sense. And so you bring quality in to Europe, Germany, Kassel, which for us is very astonishing and unusual. And I know very well that I see you in the Perle Bar. Our daughter runs the Perle Bar, and we sit there out. And it was maybe October, I don't know. It was a warm day, and we talk about is it warm in a double sense, in a physical sense, and in a what's the other, the personal sense. Do you remember? Yeah. And then you invite immediately your friends Iswanto and the family, and we sit there, and this was very unusual. Once upon a time, there was a curator, not Documenta 15. It was another Documenta curator in curator in. And they wanted to learn about Kassel artists, and we invited this curator woman drinking coffee, and this curator, I don't know, 12 or 13, I don't want to say make it too personal, said, "I'm not in Kassel to make friends." Yes. Sharp knife, in the same moment you are, this information reaches you and you know what's happened then. And now you are stopped by Corona because your kind of work is just visit people. I see you every place, visit, make relations, speak with people. We are very, very respectful, or it's more than just respect. I don't know the word now. That you come from bottom up. With this top-down position, you come from bottom up. In every society, every institution knows you years before Documenta start. And is this working? Is this your kind of working?
Thank you for mentioning this. But to be honest, like partly because Indonesian is a quite huge archipelago. So most of the time it's always concentrating in this particular island like Java. I mean, even since the colonial era up until the authoritarian regime and such, like Java is always have like a strong way to designate it as a place for everyone outside of Java could chasing their dreams. That's one particular point that makes us sad, not like really knowing about what's going on outside Java, because it's quite hardly for us to travels or even to meet our sisters and brothers around Indonesia in this particular context. Because first, we acknowledge that we are respected in each of every positions that we are experiencing with or to deal and work with. And then within this particular base of our knowledge to regard our context in the society, especially in our cultural societies, to have these strong connections to the earth, it's much more.
Excuse me, to the earth.
To the earth, yeah, because we always stay in the ground, yeah. So, like for example, like even in Indonesia, I mean, cultural-wise, actually, we don't have high-rise building. So that's one, because we always attach to the ground. That's one thing. So within these particular notions that embed to our practice, we always, I mean, you could call it like it's always very horizontal to regard any kind of approach. And secondary, none of us in Ruangrupa having a background of curatorial. And then none of us even study art historians, art history, I mean. So for us to create this again, continuing to regard our practice to always keep these relationships alive, always acknowledge like new friends with the particular different background. This is always part of our curiosities, how we try to connect, how we try to embed. And then most importantly, when we start get invited to Kassel, that's for us, or even for me personally, even to get to regard our dear family, the ones that also staying here in Kassel, that's the first time that we would like to embrace the ecosystem of Kassel, because that's much more important to our knowledge, because this is also the way that we always having the capacities to acknowledge many differences back in Jakarta. It's only Jakarta, right? So Jakarta, Kassel, it's not fair to compare about the biggest or the dance or something like that, but it's more like into the human relations. So that's why when we start to think that we need to live here and then be part of the societies, be part on how we, not only because of the sense of Documenta give us privilege, but how we have the sense how to connect, because it's always, it could be the way around. For example, you come to Jakarta, let's say.
Thank you.
For sure, you will be embedded to regard how these relations in the deeper context, because this is always the things that happen, which is everyone could like really embrace you, although this particular person is not a host for you. So this is always like the strong gesture about how we would like also to connect as a human, although as a challenge because we work for the institution, for example. But in Jakarta or in our context, in our practice, we never like really differentiate to to regard, okay, because you work in an institution, then you have to behave like this or something like that. No, I mean we are very flexible on how we position ourselves. And the third, the important things that we would like to embrace by acknowledging most of our dear friends in Kassel is also to gain experience, because this is the only chance for us to learn. Or else, if we back in Indonesia, it's quite hard or barely to learn from anyone or any person that not came in the same island. But this is like the only chance for us to likely learning or having like different thoughts or sharing. I mean, like not only into very specific matters, yeah, but it's kind of like a daily, because we would like also be part of these daily narrations about what is Kassel, because we never know, we didn't know. I mean, this is also for you all here. If you come to Indonesia, for sure you will be stranded in Java most of the time because of the international airport and such, or you have a choice to go to international airport in Bali. But in the sense like how you like also to embrace this particular feeling. So that's why like the warm feeling. I mean, I remember that you and Sylvia even offering me the coat, no, because you I'm saying that I'm too cold here, even though it's October.
I remember, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
This is very astonishing. My whole family are living in Uckermark. If I go to Uckermark, they give me food, they give me a safe place, they give me open the heart. And for me and our culture, it's unbelievable that you are so open-minded, open-hearted, because we know that we have this time as Suharto. My country started 2 world wars, and even after that, they supported Suharto. It's not only my country, it's Bundeskanzler Helmut Kohl. He said, Suharto is my friend. How can somebody be your friend who kills hundreds, thousands of people? And for me, the question is, how can you be so friendly anymore in this country, which helps such a man?
I think if it concerning to that matter, for sure, like each of every one of us, even direct or indirect connected to regard our particular history. But each of every human, each of every person have its own particular history, the way that they would like to receive it or achieve it, for example. But in our context, especially because we grew up also, I mean, most of our ruangrupa's family, we grew up also together with the authoritarian regimes. But we acknowledge like how, I mean, for us, like to learn about the situations within our history of our country since the authoritarian regime start, let's say, actually it's also to acknowledge what's happened in the societies. So this is partly like on how we would like to evaluate the way that we are have a purpose on living together. That's the thing. And then also we find out like how we strengthen because we have the same needs, and then at the same time we also would like to acknowledge what happened in the other struggle within the ones that we never met yet in Indonesia's context. So sometimes this is make us more put in the realization, yes, we're dealing with our own trauma, for sure. But in the other hands, we also need to proceed the ones that could be creating more into good deeds in the sense. Because actually it's not about like Indonesia, Europe, or particularly like German or something. But I mean, mostly everywhere, we're dealing with these particular situations. And then, but it's depend on how you would like to embrace it, because it is difficult. I mean, perhaps I saying this partly like because for my own personal point of view, for sure we need also to respect the rest of the point of view that also acknowledge such a sensitive histories. And Indonesia, most of the time since 60s, we try to bury everything. This is the gesture of authoritarian regimes. Try to bury everything. Try to stabilize everything. But this is like makes us really unsecure within this, because we need to acknowledge what happened to the next generations. Yes. So that's why to create this more into deeper, intimate conversations, relationship everywhere. When the fall down of the New Order regime, for example, we celebrating it. Like suddenly we could like really hang out in the streets. Suddenly we could even play football in the streets. Suddenly we could watch the movie in the streets. Suddenly we could just go like really hang out without any time considerations everywhere. So we kind of like celebrating this again, because beforehand we could still do that, but they're always like monitoring from even from the society itself. So that's why for us, like to making like more into this particular attachment as a human being, that's much more important. Yeah.
Oh, yes, this is very important. What's the next question? Don't know.
Yeah, for me it's very happy to becoming like 100 100% within 100 days. Because I thought the 100 days should be tomorrow, not 24 if I'm not mistaken, or today.
Today is the last day of these 100 people.
Then I must say that I'm very lucky.
You're the last one, and there's no question anymore. No, wait a minute. Let's go further on in this history. Now you visit Kassel, and it's Corona, and even if it's Corona, you're try to make friends, try to relate, meeting people. I'm a witness of this process. I know this, and I know Isvanto, I know you mainly, but also others. Agus, for example. I ask myself, Agus, he lives in an area the other side of Jakarta. There was military pressure and also the tsunami. And Agus is an Indonesian artist from your group. We had him in this interview, and he goes there and sings with the people and talks with the people and invited them to come with him in like a stage like this, and with a situation to talk and to transform the trauma. And I ask myself whether is this part of your culture? Also, is this a main topic of your culture? Being friendly, being human, being. You talk about that you are sitting on the earth. It means something. Agus, he's walking. He's in this film in Grimwald. He's looking for the Dao river, and always he's very kindful. This is 15 people. We have 100. He's 50 people, and he's so kindful. And just if we hear him, it opens your heart. If you see him, how kindful he is. We are not kindful in our culture. We are looking for mistakes. We have sharp knives. And is this part of your culture, being kindness, kindful?
And I guess within this, I mean, so many contexts in the sense on how we would like to realize on how we practicing, or in the same time we also exercising in our daily life to regard what is the relationship so far. For sure, perhaps to heard the stories within us from Indonesia, it seems like, oh, this is the ideal, right? Or this is like the what's it called? Like, oh, this is like such a wonderful life. But actually, to be honest, it's always frictions. It's always frictions everywhere. It's always disconnected, also. Yeah. So, but because we understand how difficult it is to like really struggle, especially in the big cities like Jakarta, how you manage to survive, how you need to create yourself an options even, because there's no such thing as an options that being given or being acknowledged. We need to find ourselves an options. So the only options that we had, the ones that could connect as a common and as a common sense, actually to being introduced by each other. Because then because we always believe that each of every one of us is a such resource. It's very resourceful. So it's depend on sufficient you are to like really could get connected with others. We have saying actually back in Indonesia's context, if you don't have to, you don't need to. It's okay. I mean, it's okay to disagree to relate our societies from Java to other island. But we have still strong connections, because we believe that in somehow these particular options could tie you, like make you stronger. Although beforehand you didn't know what's going on within this particular gesture of the ones that came, for example, from the west part, or I mean in Indonesia's context, from the West Indonesia or from the center of Indonesia. We don't know. This is like the strong gesture, because we know like we are not enemy. Like we have our own common enemy. Because this is the things that we acknowledge to regard authoritarian regimes. Like most of the common enemy is there. Beforehand, most of our common enemy is the military, for example. For example, everyone's know, although perhaps we don't close to each other, but you have, also I have the same common enemy. Yeah, this is very
That helps.
Yeah, it helps. So, and then suddenly when we start to having this sort of conversations, and then suddenly we relate in somehow, although perhaps you still dislike me in the sense, but we still have a strong gesture on how if we could still go together. This is kind of like the ones that we always perceive as a cultural societies. Because as you know, Indonesia also, before the colonial era, we've been governed, or not governed, like most of our territory actually being governed by one particular big kingdom. And then this big kingdom suddenly is becoming turned into small scale of kingdom. And then this small scale of kingdom, sometimes they fought within each other. Like us, in the border of West Java to Central Java, there's like a big war even. So this is kind of like the way that how we nurture these particular differences. And so within Agus, for example, Agus came from Banda Aceh, for sure. Banda Aceh, during the authoritarian regimes, it's always related to the separatist movement back there.
And what's the separatist movement? Just to
because
explain.
Aceh during that time have this so-called separatist movement that called Gerakan Aceh Merdeka, which is Aceh would like to proclaim their own independency. But it's kind of like a generating more in the issues to for perhaps authoritarian regime would like to control within that area, which is actually authoritarian regime already control everything. But this is like to give a sense, because Banda Aceh is like we call it like very special districts or regions or province, because they have like a very strong gesture of Islam in the practice, you know, like a Sharia law and such up until today. But in the other hands, also Aceh, back within this particular context, within the area itself, it's contain resources. So that's why it's always frictions in this area. Quite unfortunate. We have a very sad news during the tsunami, and Agus already in Jakarta, if I'm not mistaken, during that time. But we are quite separate because we are college mate, like in the same college art school during in the art school during that time. So Agus tried to revive this strategy of generating into storytelling character within their own language, because could be Agus is the last of the person that still acknowledging this particular practice as the storyteller back in the Aceh context. So that's why when Agus, this is like a intermezzo. When Agus came to Kassel the first time on June 2021, Agus realized, so many people here are walking. Agus living in Jakarta, in the south of Jakarta, because in Jakarta we barely walk. Although we have pedestrians, we have pavement, but still we have to compete with other gesture, motorcycle, kiosks and such. So Agus realized that he quite imagining like everyone's here is walking. So Agus start to walk. So this is like his own particular reason to make his process alive. And also he's imagining to regard his particular articulation in the Grimm world, for example, to connect the dot within the Brothers Grimm. Agus dream like questionings like, do you know how big is the size of the shoe of the Brothers Grimm? Because Agus is imagining they're always walking, something like that. So it's give us like sense of really becoming part of the personal history or stories. Although it's fictions, but for Agus, it's kind of like embed to regard his experience into Kassel. So that's why this makes his stories is alive here. Although part of his story actually came from Indonesia's or Aceh, Banda Aceh context, but when he come here, suddenly he found these similarities or this familiar feeling. The sister city of Braunschweig. The statue is there. Every time I'm passing by, when I'm still in going to school, I always, what is sister city and why Braunschweig? It's always like that. Even I show it when I have a chance to meet friends from Braunschweig, come to Kassel, I said, hey, do you know this? And it's like, what is this? This is the relationship as a sister city. I grew up with that. So, but I never been there, to be honest, yet. Because my friends have a jokes. Take a picture at the Braunschweig and then send it to your friend in West Java, and then said that you hit the landmark. So I have 2 landmark at least. So, but this is the things that we miss actually. Like, but gladly, ever since that we acknowledge, for example, like the Goethe Institute. But this is institutions, right? To acknowledge like comprehensive into literature or language, or even the systematic on how you could perceive your future in Germany, something like that. But the things that we miss actually the most, what's it called, yeah? It's not this particular institution to institution, but this human relationship. Because many of us always dealing with the characteristic of transiting, right? For example, if Lutz come to Indonesia, not staying, at least maximum you only have 90 days. That's it. And then suddenly we only learn from Lutz. Or you came, and then suddenly I need to go vacations also, because Indonesian considering beautiful, many islands and such, and then you go. So this thing of connection. But there's lots of different societies that connect to the to Germany in particular, actually. So this is also embedded. Like we have, for example, in Jakarta, it's easy to mention. We have German International School, for example. Or we have connected to the, let's say again, the Goethe House, for example. So it's much more easy. And then even the German literature is being studied in university. Like, so this is like the connection that we have. But the missing is a lot, actually. Like, I'm experiencing Oktoberfest back in 95 or 96 in Jakarta. I don't know what is this. But we could pay one price for all things, the buffet and such. But I don't know what's really happening there, actually, to be honest. But for me, it's very interesting. Suddenly we acknowledge, like, oh, Oktoberfest. And suddenly it's connected to, I don't know if I'm not mistaken, but most of friends said it's from Bavaria, from the southern, or something like that. So it's not like the whole Germany, so it's something like that. So this is like, approaching this notions of more into intimate relationship. This is the thing that we miss, perhaps. We always having the relationship because of the program, of the project, of the research, of the education. But this human, we need that. So that's why it's such a privilege. That's why I'm very thankful, my family and my dear colleague, to be here. Is because although from Kassel we could gain lots of things that we could like really learn and to connect or even reconnect the ones that we miss, perhaps. Hopefully it's good grow like that.
Hi. First of all, I like your socks. They look very cool.
This is PM toh? No, it's different. Sorry.
Different ones.
I used the PM socks.
So we talked a lot about differences between Jakarta and Kassel. I'd like to know if there are similarities too, or things that even make you feel at home here.
Yeah, I don't know if I could make these things up to regard similarities among Jakarta and Kassel. But at least we came here during the pandemic. And that's the similarities among us all, not only Jakarta and Kassel. Because this is also first experience. But let's take a step back. The only chance that we had, me, Iswanto, Daniela, and Andan, that we have opportunity to come to Kassel for I think 3 weeks during that time, is in July 2019. So that's the first time. We came, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday. And we thought, oh, let's go around on Sunday. We don't have any clue. Then Sunday morning we woke up, because we are very excited to be in Kassel for the first time in our life. Then we stood up in our balcony in the apartment, and we said, like, it's so quiet, on Sunday. Okay, it's so quiet. Feels like we are somewhere. We're not even concerning, or we never like really compare. This is small town, big cities, and such. Never. But we feels like, okay, let's go to the center of the town, because we need to find out what's really going on there, right? So far that I know, or so far that we experience, actually we count people there is only like 25 to 40 people in the city. Perhaps it's too early in the morning, like around 8 or 10 if I'm not mistaken. But the similarity was, because I don't know, perhaps they see us different gesture, or perhaps if they consider us as a tourist in castle, perhaps they will ask like, why do you come in castle? Because there's no such thing as tourism. Perhaps you just go to the Hercules and such. But the way that I found out the first time, actually, like when we met eye to eye, they say hello. That's a very warm gesture of similarities or familiar feeling that we had. Like you went to the bus, you say greetings, like I don't know, like good day or something like that. That's the similarities in Indonesia. When you met someone in the street, they say like, hello, mau kemana? Like asking you question, although you didn't know. Like mau kemana means where you going. But here, no, I mean, there's not such thing like where you going. Yeah, they say hello or guten Tag or moin or something like that. So that's always like a gesture of welcoming. So for us, wow, yeah, this is nice when we could say hello to everyone suddenly, like without any, even when we have friends and we shout this particular name of friends from our balcony, for this person is surprised and said like, this is the first time that someone shouting my name in the streets. This is like the similar gesture, like when everyone's know, when you come to Jakarta and know somebody, they will say your name when you say like, Reza, something like that. Although you don't have a conversation, you just say hello. So this gesture actually is embedded to us, and also saying thank you. That's in particular, like the ones that we've, when we go to the shop or something like that, it's always say thank you. Even sometime, like have a good day to you, and we said like have a good day too, something like that, you know. Although you didn't know the name even. And then when we even like when I greet the person's shopkeepers who have name tag, I greet them by the name, they say thank you. And I was like really, wow. Indonesia is actually sometimes it's quite difficult when you say like hello and say like, who is this? And, you know, sometimes it's also like that. But here, no matter what, I mean, sometimes you just not even seeing the eyes, but you see like somebody is passing by to you and you say like, moin, and say like, moin. You know? This conversation and makes you feel safe, no? This makes you feel safe. So, oh, yeah, sorry. So this is the, I think this is the familiar or similarities, the way that we could share.
Especially on Sunday on the berg.
Oh yeah, I think we missed direction. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Haberzettel?
Yeah, it's nice to have you here tonight at in our last show. And thanks a lot for this fabulous documenta and documenta time. The last 48 hours we are facing at the moment. How can you tell us what are you doing the next 48 hours? And is it busy for you? And after that, you invited so many people in the collectives, and they invited people also to Kassel. And what do you hope for the spirit of Documenta is spreading into the world?
This could be like a very big hope, yeah. But to regard my schedule, I think Andy also know my schedule. Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, at least the way that we believe that we have tasks and also responsibility, for sure we gladly that we could accompany for the next couple of hours. That's one thing. And as a hope, actually, as part of our sense that one of the main reasons by hoping that hopefully this is could be like one of the gesture that could be very welcome to Kassel. Because we did this in Kassel, not other cities. And if this happened in Jakarta, we are very lucky. Yeah. But this is always in Kassel, always happen in Kassel, which is Kassel should be very lucky to have Kassel as a part of this, as the way of us living. So our hope that, although not always in the sense of collective, not always in the sense of lumbung, the way that we bring, but to generate more into a different gesture on how Kassel have a very strong, important history. Documenta is a one of it, but as a Kassel, it is like a creating like a hopefully we could add some new ingredient aside of pandemic ingredients to Castle Kitchen. Let's say, I don't know what. I don't know. We don't know how us going to use this particular ingredient, but at least this is our offer to Castle by introducing ourselves, by being here, by being also hand to hand together, and also for sure facing like lots of difficulties together. We are not ideal. We are not answering many things out of curiosities. We are not a problem solver, but our strong reasons why since the beginning we would like to accept this particular documenta as a part of our process or our practice is because this strong gesture on how we also would like to know something about what is Castle and then what is the documenta as a history, because this is the things that we're going to bring back as a part of our ingredients in our kitchens too. So we don't know about what's really going on later on, but at least we know that many of us here thinking about the good things. That's it. Although for sure it's not easy. So that's why it's very thank you. Yeah.
Yes. You have seen it before, Lutz, but I will close it with our thank you for you and your ruangrupa for this documenta. I think it's for me a very great support for all movement in the city. And when you ask why Kassel, why we live in Kassel, because here are a lot of structure which are for the future. Yes, and you have shown it, show it for us and give a big impulse to see it, and so it can grow up in the next years. I hope so. Yes, with your help, you are stay on our side the next years, and we want to stay on your side. And in the restaurant, I think I have seen a big table to sit together and to be connected, because now we need a new place to be connected. Yes, and we are looking together where it could be. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Castle, also.
This is my mind map.
Yeah.
Before we ending, Documenta is ending, Hugenottenhaus exhibition is ending, and for me it's the beginning. For me it's really beginning. You said one sentence, 5 sentences before. If somebody says to you good morning, gives you a feeling of safety. That means that we are, as we are human beings, has to deal with unsafety. Unsafety, fragility, violence, and so on. And we all hope the best for ourselves and for our children to be safe, to have food, to meet people who are warming up with not so sharp knives. And in this way, Documenta 15 for me is a success. I want to say this from bottom of my heart. And now we, I hope that's the beginning of to appreciate or to more learn about solidarity, about let's come to common. Yeah. Yesterday we had Karl Wilhelm Steuernagel here. He's a medicine, and he grew up 12 children and help people, ill people. He goes to Ukraine, and we ask him, what's the reason? Why do you do this? And I think it's. I let it. I don't want to destroy this question with any answer, but we should think about this more. Now we end people here, 100 people, 100 days, our exhibition Erste Hilfe First Aid, and I want to really thank Reza to be here also in the future, and I want to thank the Hugenottenhaus team. I see here around, it's Silvia, it's Jasmin, it's Pascal, it's Stefan, and Stefan from Boston. Will noch jemand was sagen an dieser Stelle? Ansonsten auf Wiedersehen. Im nächsten Jahr geht es natürlich weiter. Im nächsten Jahr geht es natürlich weiter. Wir haben ja auch noch, morgen ist noch Ausstellung?
Der Reza ist ja dabei nächstes Jahr.
Genau.
Reza ist ja dabei nächstes Jahr.
Yes. We are planning our exhibition in the next year and Reza will be part of it. Okay, goodbye.